Welcome back, everybody, to, I'm not sure what we're going to call this.
We're in the midst of a rebrand. Maybe. We don't know.
Maybe.
We're mumbling through something.
Enough that we bought a domain
We bought a domain. Ready?
and we created a Facebook group.
We're rolling it out. Ready?
Drum roll. The Mindful
CEO.
The Mindful CEO.
All
.com.
right. So this is born of a couple of things. Let's just talk because we were, why are we doing this? What are we doing? Which is always a really useful question, but mostly I ask it like, what are we doing? Is really different than what are we doing?
Yeah, right.
So a friend of mine listened to the podcast recently, and AI Will Kill You, which was one of the best titles we've ever come up with. And we really should spend more time on titling. And, it was talking to me about how it's, what we're doing here is not really just a conversation for realtors. And we've known that.
Yeah.
But we use realtor terminology, GCI, things like that. And we've been really only targeting real estate agents for this. And, because and I have been of the belief, narrow your niche, go deep.
Yeah.
And, we've done it for a year and repurpose and looking at all the different branding aspects of what we're doing. And I'm not satisfied with the traction. And I think the work we're doing is more valuable than the audience that it's attracting. And so I think it's a marketing problem. I think it's a problem of, often, just to tie this back to real estate, anyone in real estate knows this, and this isn't just even particular, nothing is particular to real estate. But in real estate, we all know that the best agent doesn't get the client. The agent that markets themselves the best gets the client. That's just a fact of how it goes. The agent that's going to do the best job does not get the client. The agent that markets themselves the best gets the client, which I've always had a real stinking problem with. Because selling houses and marketing yourself are two different things.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, so we started looking at, okay, does widening this conversation dilute anything? And I think we're both pretty clear that the answer to that is no.
No.
That there's nothing that we've done in any of the podcasts for an entire year or however long we've been doing this that isn't instantly frameable to make a difference to any entrepreneur.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't think we lose anything. And I think we have a lot to gain by opening it up. That's one piece. And then we went to AI because before it kills us, hopefully it'll make us some money, but, so our pain will be less, our death will be less painful, or we'll die with more toys. That's really the game here. We started brainstorming ideas, and one of the ideas that it came, and I fed it, things that are interesting to us that we both think are part of the culture, part of what the context that we're delivering, which were words like conscious and mindful and awakened and entrepreneur, leadership. I think those were the seed words to the prompt. And I just asked it to think like a copywriter and come up with some names that would resonate with people. And one of the names it came up with was the Mindful CEO. And that struck me. Like if I saw that, so part of this is, Chris is cheating on me and has another realtor group. So let's just get this said. This is, Maury says you are in fact not the father. But I got fed that group, when it said the awakened agent.
Yeah.
And I signed up. I was like, oh, a Facebook group called the Awakened Agent. I resonate with that word. That word resonates with me. I see it and I think, yes, that's me. Which is a fascinating phenomenon on a lot of levels. And I think we could drill down into this because, we'll get into the group and the nature of the group, but that I saw it resonated and I acted instantly, right? Is what we're going for. And which is what every entrepreneur, which is what every business leader, which is what every CEO wants of their business, that when someone sees it, it occurs like an opportunity to act. It shows up like, oh, that's me. It resonates with people.
Yeah.
Where when you contrast the mindful CEO with the Repurpose podcast as a name, right? Just as a name, if you saw the two, it's not even fucking close. Which one speaks to something? Repurpose is an inside joke.
Yeah.
You know, RE purpose, it fits, it makes sense. We can laugh and chuckle about it. But if you see it, you're like, the fuck is that? What is that? Is that for, is that, who's that?
What are we doing?
What is that? Who's that for? It requires explanation, right? And Donald Miller, you know, if you confuse, you lose.
Right.
So just from that perspective, the name was unworkable, you know, and we're back to the conversation of, you know, use VAs to outsource your business and work 4 hours a week versus the 4-hour work week.
Right.
Same material,
yeah,
different title. One's the guy's a genius and one, the guy sells a whole bunch of little ebooks.
Right.
Yeah. So names matter, marketing matters, you know, like that. So the mindful CEO at least speaks to a wider group. So we have a wider audience we're going for. And there's not one thing in any of the podcasts for the last year that we did that does not actually speak to the mindful CEO. We could just pull the Repurpose name off it and slap the mindful CEO on all of it, and it would all make perfect sense. There's not one iteration of anything. The only things that don't work are the things that or don't transfer are the things that the terminology regarding real estate, GCI, units volume. That exact wording doesn't fit, but the idea of it completely fits. Right. So there's that.
Yeah.
Right. Anything you want to say about, and then I got.
Well, I was starting to think about just why mindful mattered to me, and how those two words, mindful and CEO, really create a world like that. The kind of conversations I want to be involved in are conversations of consciousness, and how do we make the world better? How are we, so it invites a spiritual conversation. It invites something beyond the production of things. So that I really like that in the name of the mindful CEO, but I also like that CEO grounds it into, identity, production. Let's do something. It's not just, you know, holding hands and having a conversation, though that matters to me. There's an actual execution here that we can move things forward in the world, which I think a CEO is tasked with. That's, if you think of yourself as a CEO, you're going to go do stuff. And I like to do stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And then the questions you had, two other things about CEO. So for sure, mindful works, right? It works as well as conscious does, maybe even a little better because it's easier to say and easier to spell.
Right. Yeah.
Not even. But everything about mindfulness calls in the entire world of presence, consciousness, peace, spirituality, you know, love, connection, all are all wrapped in this container of mindfulness, right? So there's that. But then the CEO part, and I thought this was interesting because when we read it off a list of things, and that one jumped out, but then and we kept reading and I kept coming back to this one. And then there was two interesting things with the CEO part, I think, that are worth just mumbling through. One was, okay, do people really consider themselves CEOs? And, you know, does it rise? Let's see. Does it allow to rise, or does it bring up this? I'm saying the same thing over and over because I'm dissatisfied with that description, but does it call forth this world of corporate America? Right. You know, do you have to be involved with corporate America to hear yourself as a CEO? Right. You know, is there, when you consider yourself in corporate America CEO, there's a board of directors above you. You're not even the top of the food chain as the CEO. Often. Yeah. Right. But even in that whole, that's so, I think, in the weeds of corporate America.
Yeah.
And I think CEO has become more colloquial for the boss, more colloquial for entrepreneurship, more I'm going to use colloquial, and I'm now going to throw in zeitgeist because zeitgeist. Yeah, exactly. Of just what it is to be a badass, entrepreneur, business owner is a CEO. Right. And I don't think it needs as much explanation as I just gave it. Right. I think it's already there for people that they're CEOs and it's all groovy. But that did come up, and I think it's worth investigating and testing, and, everything's testing. So we'll see if that comes up. But then the other piece that came up was that everything that we've done so far, our little group, almost everything that we've done, our True North workshops, everything that we've done has attracted women. Mm-hmm. I think one man came to one thing that we've done.
That's true.
In a year.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating to me. And Chris was commenting that most of his groups are all women.
Yep.
Because the groups are about connection, community,
vulnerability,
truth, collaboration,
spiritual connection.
And those are feminine qualities. Those
yin and yang.
Yin and yang.
That is the yin. That is the yin, man.
It's totally the yin.
Yeah.
So it doesn't call for men. Mm-hmm. Men don't hear that and go, oh yeah, spirituality. Yeah. Oh yeah. Vulnerability. Sign me up. Be vulnerable in business. Let's go.
Right.
No, that's not, except it does to me, and it does to a very limited number of conscious people involved with, or who would consider themselves, conscious masculinity, like a level of having done work already on themselves. Right. I'm trying to do this in a way that doesn't break my arm patting my own back for work I've done on myself. But, for someone who's at least open to that, to hear vulnerability, connection, spirituality as an opening to participate. Like when Chris's group that he's cheating on me with, called the Awaken Agent, showed up in my Facebook feed, I was like, oh, that's me. Mm-hmm. That speaks to me. Mm-hmm. And I signed up. And then the first question on the thing, or the second question on the group, whatever the filter is that they use to accept people is, how long something about you being a woman. But there was nothing in anything that I had seen up until then that indicated this was a group for women. And, I just answered the question. I think I got in because Chris, I know Chris, and he's a co-sponsor of the group, but I'm guarantee I'm the only man in there. And, which is fine. But the point is, yin conversations don't attract yang energy.
Yeah.
In this way. I mean, ladies' night at a bar does, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And and what was fascinating to me is it uncovers this world where, and I think this is the case, this is just an assertion, I have no evidence for this yet, that labeling it for CEOs is going to attract men. Mm-hmm. I don't think it pushes women away.
Right.
But I do think making sure that saying mindful CEO speaks to men, because really in our culture, in our zeitgeist, this happens all the time. As much as, I wish it was not the case, there are CEOs and there are women CEOs. You read about it in the news, in Forbes or whatever, in every, Inc. There are people labeled, there's a CEO of this company, and then this is the first female CEO of this company. That, right. There's women doctors and there's doctors. It's one of these, it's way less unconscious now than it was, but it's still part of the vocabulary and the way the vocabulary of business works, which we're both, out to dismantle.
Right.
But it's stupid not to recognize that still has an impact in the listening. It'd be dumb to rail against it and pretend it doesn't exist.
Right.
So labeling this or naming this, branding this as the mindful CEO, I'm thinking, and we'll see how it plays out in reality, has the opportunity to attract yang energy, Shakti energy, like Shiva energy, like really like creating that opportunity for people to participate in a new way. Like different people participate, they'll hear themselves in that. And I'm really interested in that because I really am interested in conscious masculinity and giving people that recognize themselves as mindful CEOs a place to be, a place to get nurtured, a place to collaborate and be vulnerable, and all that thing, everything that we've done. It just, we haven't branded it in a way that someone who could hear themselves in it yet. I think we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And then we should just say, I think we're on the same page about this, that the Mindful CEO as a community and as a Facebook group and as content is not specifically for men.
No,
you could be a woman who is mindful. You could be a man who's mindful, and you have an interest in running your business in a mindful way. And that would take us straight into our True North workshops. It would take us straight into our 4 L's, our pillars of love, legacy, leadership, and leverage. It would allow us to put structure into how do we be mindful CEOs.
Yeah. Everything about it works. Yeah. Clearly, this is not shifting this to be a conversation for men. Well, sorry, I don't want to take it back. Clearly, this is the opportunity for us to say clearly, we are clearly not interested in this being a community just for men.
Yeah.
This is for people that consider themselves CEOs. I'm thinking that there's a bank shot benefit that where whatever we had named it didn't actually speak to men. It now includes men. Men have an opportunity to hear themselves in this where they might not have before.
Yeah, that's good.
And I don't think it does anything to deter women from participating. I don't think we'll see. We'll actually see how the whole thing plays out. But I think, but we do want it to be for leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are dealing with those issues of what, we've talked about from Jeff Wilmore, the force field of business, the pull that everything as a CEO that you need as a business owner is going to be pull for more business, more leads, more profit, all that stuff. And none of the force field pulls for more heart, more legacy, more continuity with who you are as a individual and what the difference you have to make. All of that's exactly the same. And I think all of that speaks to anyone who's interested in mindfulness. Yeah.
That's good. There's 2 more things that are there for me. One is then about repurpose. We had talked about how inside of the Mindful CEO conversation, the idea that you could bring more purpose, repurpose, that you could bring more purpose to the existing systems or the structure of the way things are, that there is still a place for, if we choose to do it, choose to follow that thread, there's a place for a conversation about how do we repurpose the systems and the structures of things as mindful CEOs, that we really could have a conversation inside of the Mindful CEO about about purpose and repurposing things, which I like. And I think we can keep that open-ended, but I like that, which I guess takes me to that second point, unless you had something to say about that.
Let's see.
Repurposing.
Yeah, we just, that's more of a message, again, messaging. It's also a tweaking of the title, repurpose, reorienting it so that it goes towards actually being a verb rather than a noun. Right. It doesn't become the Repurpose podcast. It becomes, programs to repurpose as a verb around what we do. And True North workshops fit inside but I don't know if we want to structure everything like that or if we need the name anymore. We'll figure that out as we go. This is, so that's,
Okay, good. The other thing that was there for me then is like just the teachable moment for me. I mean, not that I don't think I already knew this, but I think it's worth just pointing to, which is you and I have spent a year and 30 or 40, 50 episodes of a podcast. and building a brand around something called Repurpose, that this doesn't, none of this feels lost to me. Like we have set such a foundation, and that we're rebranding something just so that at the front door is a little bit more inclusive or a little bit more self-evident, while what's in the house is still the same, is, I think, powerful, because I think some people, not all people, but some people will wait until it's perfect, or wait until they have the right thing, whatever that is, to start. And I think you and I had enough. We had a minimum viable name. We had a minimum viable name a year ago. Yeah, minimum viable idea to go, let's go pursue this. And a year later, to me, we have foundation that has allowed us to go, hey, is there a clearer context here, or name, brand that we could create? And I don't think that we would be here if we hadn't spent all the time doing what we did with it. So
yeah, 100%. It is the, but if anyone, for the 6 people
yeah,
that have been following us,
yes,
right? We're all 6 of you. We love you. And, but nothing that we've just said changes anything in terms of what we're delivering. And it's what's important. I mean, I love it as a teachable moment, but it's more like a demonstration of what it looks like to be willing to mumble through something, explore something, be open to what the feedback is. Because really, in all honesty, this conversation today started with Chris asking me this. We didn't film this part, but with Chris asking me, okay, is there housekeeping stuff? And I went back to, I want to open that door on a Facebook group and start building a community, because I think at the heart of it, what we're talking about, the content over the last year and our work so far is way more valuable than is represented by the number of people participating. Yeah. And I have that commitment. I could be wrong in that commitment, but I have that commitment. I am that what we've done is way more valuable than is represented the number of people participating. And so that means what we've got is a failure to communicate, as HUD would say. But there's that failure to communicate. We've got to find a way to communicate it. And I'm fascinated by that stuff, made to stick and all the different ways, copywriting and marketing and Seth Godin and all the things that people talk about, about how, you've got to spend as much time on the title as you do on the content, because it doesn't matter what your content is. If no one clicks on it, it literally doesn't matter. And I have had so much resistance to that. And it feels like such, such a young sort of punk rock art school. Fuck you. Don't tell me. Don't judge me by the way I dress. Right. Which is all, as an old man now, right? People that dress, don't judge me by the way I dress. And I know this by personal experience. Literally got what got me dressed every day up until really I did the advanced course, was don't tell me what to dress. Don't judge me by how I dress, which is as much a communication as anything. I mean, that's literally judge me by how I dress so I can make you wrong for judging me how I dress. It's not that I don't care. I do care. I'm actively making sure you don't judge me, or I'm actively making sure I get to make you wrong for judging me. So I'm going to dress in the most offensive way possible to you. And, that's just adolescent.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not I don't want to say just adolescent, like diminishing it or demeaning it. It's adolescent, and it's an important phase for an adolescent to go through. And I think it's fine. It's just inappropriate for a business to go through that phase. That the way the market sees you matters. And I don't know why that's such a confronting thought for me, but it is. It's like, it feels like selling out. Like it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, I share that. I'm with you on that.
Right. But it does matter. I mean, and to pretend that it doesn't or make it wrong that it does, doesn't, whichever text tense is right there. To pretend it doesn't matter is, that's a childish rant about the nature of the universe. Like I should be able to fly. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
stuff.
I feel like there's more, that's more to unpack in that and maybe another conversation, because I feel like there's a law of diminishing returns. Everything is mumbling. So to think let's spend time to think about, to spend time on what should we name the whole thing versus when you say it, I hear, because I do the production of the podcast in the background, what should I name every episode? Because it matters. And I think, how do I know what what name or title of this episode is going to get more clicks or listens? I'm not willing to spend time trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think it's, there's, that is an entire world, right? Like where do I put the buy button, and what color does it need to be, and what shade of that color? And that's just some massive testing to get done. But that testing that gets done is really impactful.
Sure.
That, but in the meantime,
in the meantime, right.
In the meantime, here's where we're at. This is the mumbling that we've been willing to do.
Right.
And it's, the launch of a new 2.0,
baby. Next chapter.
2.0, right? Next chapter is that what's going to be coming out of us now is going to be in the container called the Mindful CEO. Yeah. And speaking to, and this conversation about rebranding and about is something a mindful CEO would need to grapple with. So it's perfect that's what, where we're at. And, we're as committed now as ever to bringing you, it's not even bringing you process. That's all we have is process. There, everything is, you said everything is mumbling, but you could say easily everything is process. That whatever product comes out of the process is just the next product that comes out and doesn't stop the process. Right. The process is constantly moving forward, or it's not. And then we got, like Woody Allen says, you got a dead shark. It's just got to keep iterating.
Yeah, that's good.
I think we got to keep count on how many random other people I quote during the show and see if we can keep a tally of
Aaron Bingo quote
bingo references. Right. God, I was thinking about this the other day, Chris. I was thinking, I'm writing. So I wrote to Mel Robbins, or I'm writing to Mel Robbins, see if we can have something happen there. But at some point I'm going to write to someone, or someone's going to hear this podcast, and then they're going to go, does he not know he's ADHD? Has he ever been diagnosed? Because or something. I have no idea what ADHD really is. I've never been diagnosed, never inspected it, never, I don't WebMD it. I don't have any real particular interest in it because I don't know what difference would it make if I had some diagnosis from some test. But I do feel like the number of really random references and number of really random side thoughts and tangents we go on is some indication of some mental condition
condition. You are.
I always thought it's because I smoked so much weed, which we were talking about before. I always thought it was really a function of the massive amount of drugs that I've done as a youth.
Great. Well, I think it's because you have a brilliant mind and you are well learned. You have so much to draw upon and put into the space that you connect dots quickly. You're like, oh yeah, that thing that belongs in this part of the sentence, and then that thing that should bring that in the sentence. and you that's what makes you a brilliant mind.
There was a woman who, really one of my real mentors, and I loved her. I wish I got to work with her longer. Joan McNeil. She was someone from Landmark, and just really one of the most brilliant women I've ever talked to. And got to work with her for some life. It's just the biggest heart, the greatest, just not, literally, I don't think there's a human being on the planet that if she knew Joan McNeil and you said her name, they wouldn't be like, oh my God, I love Joan. She used to get stopped and she'd go, there's a lot of things that need to come out right now and I can't get them all out right now. And it's like you could hear her the thoughts coming from the various places that thoughts come from and try and all get out at once. And I've taken that metaphor or that picture and see that happen to myself all the time. Like I have more things to say than can possibly get out at any one given. They're not going to come out in some pretty order. But that's the thing about mumbling as well, is that things come out and then you get to see what they look like out here.
Yeah.
Which is really different than what they look like back here.
Right.
And you got to be willing to have it come out here. I had this. Oh, I think I shared about this last time about the practice I had with my wife where we take a certain amount of time and we just listen to each other. Did I talk about this last week?
I don't know.
We have a practice where we just communicate, where, I get 20 minutes or 30 minutes and I just communicate anything that's there for me. And then she takes 20 or 30 minutes and she just communicates anything, and no one interacts. There's no defensiveness. There's no back and forth. It's literally just 20 or 30 minutes of just listening. Just attention.
Yeah.
And, I said, I had some upsets that I was communicating. Right. And it's great to have a safe space to communicate the upset without having it interacted with.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's freaking wild. And I said this whole thing that I had a problem that the problem I had, I can share this because it's my thing. I had a problem that she doesn't use me as a resource the way I want, like I use her for tapping as a resource, and I use her for this. This is a function of something called reevaluation co-counseling, which is how she grew up doing this. My family, we grew up, if you didn't throw a lamp, you weren't getting attention. So there was none of this, so I use her for various things like that. And she doesn't come to me to use me for whatever I think I want to be used for.
Yeah.
And I had a sort of a resentment building up about that. So that was one of the things I communicated. It was 30 minutes of stuff. And that was one of the line items in there. And we got done. She shared whatever she shared, and she had her time, and we went back and forth. And then, maybe a couple hours later afterwards, I said, okay, all that stuff I said about you not using me as a resource, am I being resentful about all that and stuff? You should just forget about everything I said there, because the truth is, after I said it, I could see I'm just pissed that you don't do what I want you to do the way I want you to do it. And you don't ask me how to do it. And then if you do ask me and you don't do it the way I want you to do it, I then make up that you're not using me as a resource. So you can just take all that and throw it out, because I'm not committed to any of that stuff. And I think it's useful for people watching and for people doing that. You have permission after you say it to go, wow, that was really a dumb thing to say. I don't believe any of that. Anything I just said there, after I said it, I look at it and I go, wow, that is not a drop in that am I committed to actually believing. But it doesn't get to that space if you leave it in your head. When you leave it in your head and you're talking to yourself, it adds mass. It just builds up and builds up and builds up, and it becomes more and more real. It's like, already, here we go. Groucho Marx, in I think it's Duck Soup. He talks himself into, what if I shake his hand? What if I go to shake his hand and he doesn't shake my hand? He talked about the king of Fredonia, and I go, and he insults me in front of and then the king finally walks in, and Groucho Marx has worked himself up to a frenzy, and the king walks in and extends his hand, and Groucho Marx slaps him in the face and goes, how dare you not accept my thing? And then they go to war. And that's what it's like when you talk to yourself over and over and over. You build up this reality, right? So when we're mumbling all this stuff, it's a chance to get it out here, so we can actually sort it out and not have to get trapped in what we think about it.
Wow.
So there you go.
Wow. So good, man. Whoo!
A Duck Soup reference. Come on, baby.
On fire.
On fire.
Well, I think that's we covered a lot.
Yeah, that was good. So welcome to the Mindful CEO podcast.
That's right. I would like to come up. Could you come up with a jingle? I would like to have a jingle.
Oh, that's good. The Mindful CEO is always so much fun. Okay, good. Let's figure it out. A jingle would be great.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah, good.
What? Anything else?
No, but a tagline. We should figure out a tagline.
Oh, okay, good.
Right.
All right. stay tuned for the next
Stay tuned
episode.
for our tagline. We're open. If you're one of the 5 people that are watching this, we want to, because we lost someone. We lost one of our 6 people. And you got a good tagline for the Mindful CEO. We're open.
Nice. Sounds good. I love it. All right, man. Love you. Thank you for the conversation.
Peace.